So, when we're talking about bias in an AP statistics free response question, just realize there might be multiple types of bias present, or even just you might think of one type of bias more than the other. So, it's not really important as much to name the bias, but to really thoroughly discuss the bias and its effect on what we're trying to estimate. So, when we're asked to discuss bias, there are some specific questions that we need to answer in our response. The three questions are: what is the parameter we're trying to estimate? And who is the population? How is our sample different from the rest of our population? And as a result, will our sample statistic likely be higher or lower than the true population parameter we're trying to estimate? So let's look at an example to kind of put this in context. So a McNeil student is trying to find out the mean number of push-ups that all students at McNeil can do in a minute. So they decide to pick a sample of students that have them do as many push-ups as they can in a minute. They know they should use a random sample, so they go to the school super early one morning and take a random sample of varsity football players who are standing outside getting ready to go to practice. Describe the bias that would be present in the student's data. So first we say, what is the parameter we're trying to estimate? So parameter, remember, is what mean or proportion are we trying to estimate, and who is the population we're trying to do that for? So this McNeil student is wanting to find out the mean number of push-ups that all students at McNeil can do. So our parameter is the mean number of push-ups in a minute for all students at McNeil. That's what we're trying to estimate. How is our sample different from the rest of our population? Well, our sample is a sample of football players. Varsity football players tend to be a little bit more buff than the rest of McNeil students. They're probably going to lift weights and work out more than most other McNeil students probably do. So that's how they're different. So as a result, will our sample statistic be higher or lower than the true population parameter we're trying to estimate? So in this example, because varsity football players can probably do more push-ups than most McNeil students, the estimate for the mean number of push-ups from this sample will probably be too high. It'll be higher than what it would be for all McNeil students because we got it from a sample of all football players. So when I talk about bias, nowhere in there did I name the bias. This is a great example. You could call it convenience bias. We could even call it just under coverage. We took a random sample, but it didn't include all McNeil students. But it's more important that you talk about the effects. So talking about this sample is probably going to work out more and be stronger than most McNeil students. Therefore, that estimate for the mean number of push-ups a student could do in a minute is probably going to be too high. So talking through those three questions is a good way to answer any question that you're asked about bias.